All right, diving in alongside Ryan Wilson and the two-time champ Bryant McFadden, we have to start exactly where it finished. Situational football was not a strong suit for either of these teams. And B-Mac, the grin tells me your answer, and I already know Ryan Wilson's. Take me to that third down, Sean Payton electing to center it up instead of kicking. The reason being, don't leave 20-something seconds for Josh Allen. We get that. But you put your kicker in an adverse situation, one in which he misses the kick, luckily 12 men on the field. Was that the right decision or the wrong decision by Sean Payton?
Wrong. Ryan Wilson, I know where you're going with your answer, but it's wrong. Number one, in a game-winning situation like that with your field goal kicker, you never want to put him in a rush, especially when you don't have to. Number two, he's already missed an extra point, right? So he's already struggled in kicking extra points, kicking field goals. We saw another missed opportunity because the snapper, the holder, misplaced the football. So clearly your special teams unit has struggled, not to mention the swirling wind you've been dealing with the entire ball game. Take a knee, allow your special teams unit, including your kicker, to come out and relax, be comfortable, and just go through their progressions, go through the motion instead of rushing them out there when you didn't have to. And if 20 seconds is not enough time for your defense to bow their back to prevent Josh Allen, who, oh, by the way, wasn't really he didn't have his A game, B game, or C game. If they allow him to get into field goal range within 20 seconds, so be it. But I would not put my field goal unit in that type of situation, knowing the difficulties we've seen from that same unit throughout the entire ball game. And luckily enough for them, you said it the best way, Joe. If two teams could lose this ball game, this would have been a game. I mean, the Buffalo Bills did not want to win because they had 12 men on the field during the missed opportunity.
You're comfortable with the calamity that we just saw ensue in setting up a kicker for what would be another game-winning kick in that situation? I mean, take me through why you're comfortable with Sean Payton's decision there.
So they had the timeout. They had the conversation about what they were going to do there, right? And we saw Sean Payton make sure the special team got, and we actually said this, what is Russ doing out there on 3rd and 13? Sean Payton had Will Lutz out there, had the special teams guys ready to go. We saw the exchange once Russ took that knee, and we saw the calamity that ensued, as you mentioned. But, B-Mac, I have another question for you, because you played in the league. You played for the Steelers. You played with Jeff Reed, my guy, Quadzilla, back in the day when he kicked for the Steelers. You practice this every week in terms of getting on and off the field, and your point is a good one in terms of they did struggle in terms of some special teams actions today with the Broncos there. But I think two things. I want to ask you about the practice that you guys went through in terms of getting ready to do that. So they were well timed to do it. They were on the field. They had plenty of time. It felt like Lutz had 7, 8, 9 seconds to get his mind right. Other thing that I think Sean Payton was worried about, I don't want to mess around and let Josh Allen finally get hot. And you say 20 seconds isn't long enough. Ask the Kansas City Chiefs about 13 seconds a few years ago against the Bills. And I think, go B-Mac, go ahead. What do you got?
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. That third down play, only thing Russell Wilson did was take the snap from center, move the ball, and lay down, right?
Yeah. But they're out of timeouts.
I mean, it wasn't a lot. Yeah, so basically, if you want to try to waste some time, why don't you allow Russell Wilson to get in the shotgun, they snap the ball to him, run back, and throw it in the stands.
Yeah, that's an option. That's an option.
Throw it in the stands. I mean, you probably could have worked off around 5 to 6 seconds doing that, because, like I said, it was a difficult situation in regards to kicking, the kicking game anyway, right? You missed an extra point, you muffed the snap on another opportunity for a field goal. I didn't like that method, and clearly it wasn't the smart thing to do because they missed the field goal. So the answer, the question that Joe is asking us was already answered by the evidence that we witnessed during the ball game. But luckily enough for Denver, they weren't the worst team on the field. It was the Buffalo Bills because they had 12 men. But clearly you rushed him out. He missed it. So that was not the smartest thing to do. But they found a way to win because Buffalo found a way to lose.
All right, I'm glad we could work through that decision. We are picking at the winner in this game, and it did, as we said, feel like there would be none at times. 4 turnovers by the Buffalo Bills, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. Only 6 Denver points off those 4 turnovers, and they left 2 points on the field in the kicking game earlier on. We should have never been in this scenario is what I'm getting at. But it's a scenario we saw all day on Sunday. Another game-winning kick with zeros on the clock, our 6th of the week. We had 8 of 14 games decided on the final play. It was a thrilling Week 10, and when we looked at this slate, maybe we did not expect that. Let's get to these Buffalo Bills here. The road ahead is tough. They sit at 5-5, and to your point, same record as Indianapolis, same record as the Las Vegas Raiders. It is odd to say through 10 weeks, and the road ahead is not nice. Jets, Philly, KC, Dallas, Los Angeles. Ryan Wilson, we've been talking about it throughout the night. There's talent on that team, but is this fixable?
I mean, you tell me. We talked about it at halftime with Eric Casillas. 5 straight games, they played terribly. They could have lost that Giants game. They lost to the Patriots. They should have lost to the Buccaneers in a game where Baker Mayfield had very little opportunities to throw the ball down the field. They got absolutely demolished by the Bengals. And you lose to the Broncos in a game in which Russ Wilson threw exactly 3 passes out of the 31 dropbacks beyond 10 yards downfield. So you have a ton of questions to answer. And I think, look, and we talked about this at halftime as well. I understand you're sending a message to James Cook when you fumble on the first play of the game. Turns out you could have used James Cook. James Cook was cooking in the second half. Josh Allen is important to what they do. But those interceptions, the first one wasn't his fault. The one he threw to the sidelines was a terrible decision, and he paid for it in terms of turning the ball over. The Broncos certainly couldn't score by getting those turnovers. But we saw these things add up. And this wasn't just tonight. This has been the storyline throughout the year for this Buffalo Bills team. And we can ask Sean McDermott every time after the game, are you going to fix it? And we'll try harder, this, that, and the other. They haven't fixed it yet. So we're 10 weeks into the season. What makes me think that they're going to change now? They are who their record says they are. They have the same records as the Raiders.
We will hear from the head coaches, quarterbacks, and others here on CBS Sports HQ in just a moment. But BMAC, there's a difference between not having the guys and not executing with the guys that you do have. This Buffalo Bills team appears to be the latter. How do you get this right when you're looking at Week 11, a tough road ahead, and sitting at even 500?
Well, I think it's time for us to face the honest truth about the Buffalo Bills. Their star quarterback is a liability right now. And the only way they will get it right is if he becomes an asset instead of a liability. You cannot win football games, especially the NFL, if you're turning the football over. They had 4 turnovers. He was responsible for 3. That's not winning football. And luckily enough for him in his career, especially the last few years, he's still been giving us great numbers. They've been winning ball games while turning the football over. But it's caught up to him right now. Look at most. That's not good. That's not good, especially in a year where the AFC is extremely deep. It is deep. I'm talking about, when you talk about competitive football, this is not the year you want to have sloppy play and you struggling to win ball games. No, this was a winnable ball game for the Buffalo Bills. They found a way to lose. And I'll say this much as well. I don't know if 8 losses will get you into the playoffs this year in the AFC. I'm not sure. They have 5 losses right now. I don't know if they finish this season with 8 losses, if that's enough to get them into the postseason. I don't know. So to answer your question, I'll say it once again, Joe. Can they get it right? Yes, they can. But right now, they will not until their quarterback becomes an asset. He turns the football over entirely too much, and that will always put them in positions to lose like they did tonight. They were the better team. No questions asked about that. More talent. But they had 4 turnovers compared to 1 from the Denver Broncos, and the rest is history.
Can't get out of their own way, that is, right now, as we take a look at that AFC playoff picture. With this Bills team just sort of lost at sea right now. 5-5, too many turnovers. I will point out, also in the hunt, but not pictured, the now 4-5 Denver Broncos.
So what now?
The Denver Broncos, they got to be proud of maybe not this effort, but the result surely. Kansas City by Bills. You beat Kansas City and the Buffalo Bills in back-to-back games. Those were the AFC favorites coming into the season, KC and Buffalo. Obviously, we're in week 10. We have different pictures of these teams, but 2 quality wins as you turn the halfway corner of this season. You get right on the bye. What's the vibe around Denver right now? I mean, this was not offensively anything to be proud of in most moments, but again, results-based business.
Yeah, I think you and B-Mac have a different perception of what happened than me and Sean Payton and Russ Wilson. Because the ending, I get. We can have a conversation about that. But I think that you feel okay about this offensive performance if you're Sean Payton and Russ Wilson, especially when you compare it to, Joe, what happened last year with Russ Wilson coming into Denver as a savior with Nathaniel Hackett, and everything that could go wrong did, in fact, go wrong. Now, look, we saw Russ Wilson tonight and throughout much of the season. He is not going to throw the ball down the field. One of the best deep ball passers over the last 7, 8, 9 years is not that right now. What he is a guy who will dink and dunk you to death by 1,000 dump-offs, it feels like at times, and that worked. He won with his legs tonight, which is what we thought he might do. To get back to that, the running game helped out a bit. Cortland Sutton had that great catch in the end zone, and the defense was opportunistic when, as B-Mac has talked about a moment ago, all the turnover opportunities that were provided to them by the Buffalo Bills. So I think you feel great about the win. There are things you certainly want to clean up. Special teams converting at the end there would be helpful, but I don't hate the idea there. But even before that, I thought they competed, they battled, and they could have been up by more points than they actually were in that last drive if they could just converted some of those turnover opportunities. So it's a moral victory and a real victory and something to build on. And as you know, those are 2 great back-to-back wins.
Yeah, with 3 straight wins. Yeah, you talk about beating, I think it was Green Bay, and then, of course, Kansas City, and now tonight, the Buffalo Bills. You got to be excited about what the Denver Broncos they've been able to do in the last 3 weeks, because early on in the year, look at the first 3 ball games. I mean, they were the laughing stock of the NFL, one of the laughing stocks of the NFL with their poor play. But the defense has woken up, right? That's a bright spot. Javonte Williams, as I mentioned during the pregame show, the last 2 ball games before tonight's matchup, he was running the football extremely well. He had some tough running yards tonight, not to mention the receiving touchdown as well. That's a bright spot. And you look at their offensive line, they had some woes tonight, but of course, with them not doing their job, it made Russell create and make things happen. And that's when he's at his best. So is this the winning ingredient they need to utilize the rest of the way? Might be. It might be the case. Because right now we're seeing better execution, and the defense, they're not a liability anymore. It seems like that 70-yard game they gave up was like 3-4 years ago, right? But it's the same season, and they have found a way to get it right. So hats off to Vance Joseph and his staff, and Sean Payton is starting to understand his quarterback better than what we saw earlier in the year. Now, do I believe that they can make a playoff push? I'm not quite ready to say that just yet, but I'll say this: they're a more competitive team than what we saw in the first month and a half of the season.
All right, one last thing here, Ryan. I need you to run 25 yards out of the studio, run back in, and then make a great point.
I can't do it well rested. That's asking a bit much.
Ryan Wilson, Bryant McFadden, we always appreciate the time and the words, fellas. This has been your postgame presented by Canva, the home for every brand. And every week, you can catch us on Game Day Scoreboard, 4 Eastern. Ryan Wilson, myself, when they finish, we start. Full highlights, reaction, and sound from each and every game across the league, including our Sunday visit from the great Tony Romo. Join us this Sunday on CBS Sports HQ.